Hello friends, my name is Heather Gill and I'm a certified hypnotherapist, certified life coach, author, and self-proclaimed practical optimist. So today I want to talk about a story from my book. The book is called Reflections on Life and Living, and it's available for purchase on Amazon or on my website. And my website is www.heathergilllifecoaching.com. And the title of the story is Nemesis Dogs. And I know it sounds like maybe a strange title for a practical optimist to talk about, but it revolves around a little dog that I had. And I don't know how many of you out there are dog owners, but usually the smaller dogs, the smaller the dog, the more feisty they get. And this was a little small terrier, and I started to notice that when we approached certain houses, his hackles would go up, his back hair would stand on end, and you could feel him puffing up to make his little body look bigger than it was. And he'd get a low growl in his throat when we came up to certain fences. And if the dogs were there, he'd start in barking his little head off. And then after we passed by, he returned to normal. And there were several houses in my neighborhood where he just flat out didn't like the dogs. And that got me thinking. I bet that there are certain people or certain situations where you can feel your muscles tighten. You can feel your tummy get lift and squeeze together, and the hair on the back of your neck goes up, and basically you're puffing up to handle a situation that you think might be adversarial. Now, while the situation could be combative or somebody might start picking at you, it doesn't always have to go that way. And a way to keep it from going awry is take a deep breath. Just do it with me now. And let it out. You may even want to do a long blink when you do it. Maybe count to 2 or something. And adjust your energy to one of at least neutrality, if not being positive. And decide within yourself that no matter what happens, you don't have to let it affect you. And that's another part of the story. And that is that over time, we decide how it goes. We can decide if the people we're talking to are friend or foe. And everybody has their faults, no doubt about it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're out to get you. And the great thing about dogs, and this is something I aim to do, and a lot of my friends aim to do, is that dogs live in the moment. Yes, they can be traumatized. Yes, they can feel prickly around certain houses or people or things. But as soon as that house, those people, those things are past, like we walk by, you can almost feel the come down, the exhalation when they pass. But what if we could have that feeling even as we're approaching something? Because really, friends, we don't always know if a situation is important enough to bark or growl about. If we go into it with a positive or neutral type of energy stance, it can affect the environment around us. Meaning, say you walk up to your friend and you can feel the tension in them. You can take a deep breath and be gentle and kind, and before you know it, they exhale. Now, it doesn't always work, but what if 9 times out of 10, we decided, today I'm not going to bark at those dogs at that house? What if I just go trotting on by and don't give them the time of day? And lastly, as a part of my story, I love boxer dogs. They're one of my favorite breeds. They're smart, they're silly, they're good watchdogs, and good family pets. Well, in one of our neighbors' homes, there are 3 boxers. And when Buddy and I, he's my golden retriever, go walking by there, the dogs come rushing out to their fence and they're bark, 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 bark. And I take a deep breath, let it out, and I say, hey boxers, how's it going? We're just passing by. And the dogs often will stop and kind of give me the look. And I'll be like, oh no, it's okay. We're just passing by. No threat here. And now they're starting to get trained a little bit with me where they bark, bark, bark. And I say, hey boxers. Then they calm down because I don't let my energy rise to the growly. And a lot of times my dog and I just walk on by. Sometimes we'll stop and I'll talk to the dogs for a little bit. But for the most part, we just kind of go on our way. And it's totally fine. I've noticed that the dogs stop way sooner when they're acknowledged and with a friendly hello and we're moving on past. And they seem calmer. Now it seems like instead of them being all threatening, like I could take it, I take it as, oh, they're saying hi. Adjust my energy, say hi back, and keep on. But that being said, there's another story in there in my book called Respecting the Breed. And that means using what you know, in this case, about a dog breed or a person or what have you, and how they react in certain situations. You can adjust things so that it doesn't turn adversarial or aggressive. For example, my best friend had a pit bull, and his name was Romeo, and he was stereotypical. He was all muscle, he could be pretty scary if he wanted to be. But once she was leaving on business, and she asked me to come in and watch over Romeo every day, say hey to him, let him out, and whatnot. He had a dog door, so he could go potty when he needed to, but he liked human attention. So before knowing Romeo, knowing that this kind of dog can be very aggressive and possessive of his house and his family. So when I would go to visit him, before I would even knock on the door, I'd get out of my car, and I usually brought a cardboard box because he enjoyed ripping those up, and a couple of dog treats. And on my way to the door, I'd be like, hey Romes, hey Romeo, it's me, Heather, how you doing? And then he would stop barking. So I'd push in my key code and I would walk. And there he would be, wagging his little tail and getting all excited, and I'd give him his treat, and then I'd throw the box and he'd run off and play with it and rip it up. So after a while, he began to associate Heather with fun. And so whenever he heard my voice, he was predicting that it would be a good encounter. And I think that we can do that with people too, that we can stack the deck, so to speak, in such a way that we have good encounters with them. We can approach people as friends and allies even though we don't know them. We can take our time and get to know them. What makes them tick? How do they react in stressful situations? How do they react when they're angry? And we can help with that. If they're stressful and you know from past experience they want to be left alone for a while, leave them alone for a while before you check in on them. If you know that when someone's angry they need to go stomping off and go for a walk, let them. Because you can always talk about whatever the issue is later when calmer, cooler heads prevail. So my friends, I hope you have an excellent week this week and that you think about it. And my story of Nemesis Dogs might plant the seed of backing off and waiting before we decide that there's something to bark or growl about. Again, my name is Heather Gill, and I'm a certified hypnotherapist. And as a hypnotherapist, I deal with everything from relationship problems to chronic pain to relaxation, anxiety, depression, and so on. And as a life coach, I deal with similar things. And you can find my book, Reflections on Life and Living, on Amazon.com or on my website at www.heathergilllifecoaching.com. And there's all kinds of contact information on there if you would like to reach out. Thanks again, and have a great week. Oh, forgot one thing. Hold your head high this week. Take lots of deep breaths and let them out and walk forward. And don't ever, ever look back. Because guess what? You're not going that way.